It does feel strange to me though that there is a Boba Fett show, and I have spent the last 12 months on and off thinking about it. Since the Boba. So the last scene we're left with in Mandalorian is Boba Fett walks into Jabba the Hutt's palace, shoots Bib Fortuna and the other guys who are now on the throne, or who are hanging around there, and sits on the throne with Fennec Shand. Is it Fennec Shand or Shand?
Fennec Shand, yeah.
Shand. Great character. And she's standing next to him, and they're both kind of just, okay, well, what do we do next? That kind of thing. And then it's the Book of Boba Fett coming next year or whatever. I've spent about a year thinking, okay, what's this show going to be? What is it trying to say? What's the possible journey here and all that kind of stuff? And not to go on a negative note so early, because I do have criticisms of this show. I still don't know, and we're 3 episodes in. I still don't get the point of this show. And as much as I'm enjoying it, and this is why I talked about, having that kind of critical, but also love affair, having that critical relationship, but also that love affair with Star Wars. I'm in love with the show. I can't wait to see the next episode. I sit there and I don't want the episodes to end, and I thoroughly enjoy all the little references or all the little characters that come along. Every time he takes his helmet off, or every time he puts the helmet on, I'm just like giddy, And yet I still don't feel like I fully understand what the show is, or I don't feel like I'm convinced yet that this show actually has a real valuable contribution to make to the Star Wars universe. And that's my biggest gripe with this, and I'll unpack a little bit more about that later. But what's your experience been with it so far?
So I wouldn't necessarily. I think I've had a similar sort of thought process of why it exists. Not necessarily like I want to give it a chance. I want to get to the next few episodes before I try and figure that out. But I've looked at it I've thought about it from the point of view of like, why have they made it? Not like what's the narrative reason for it existing. Boba Fett has been he had like 6.5 minutes or something in the original trilogy, but he's been at the core of so many stories in it, whether it's Star Wars Legends or he had quite a big story in the Clone Wars. And obviously there's quite a heavy influence for the whole Mandalorian series that wouldn't have existed without him. So he's this sort of like legendary core character with minimal screen time. Everyone wanted to be him, even though he put Han Solo in carbonite, and there was all, there's this whole lore behind the guy, and fans, real Star Wars fans, if they go, I bet you could have asked 100 of them who they want a TV show made of, and a fair proportion of them would have probably said Boba Fett, because he's the. I remember growing up, who's the coolest guy, and I didn't really understand why. I thought he was cool, but I didn't know. He's like, well, he was in it for a little bit. He is cool, but I don't know why. And there's this sort of mystery behind him, particularly like when he I think he appeared in season 1, very very briefly, of Mandalorian. His feet appeared when he came to save Shan from the desert, her death in the desert. And they'd got his spurs. Even that's not in the new. That's not in the Boba Fett series. Unfortunately, it'd probably get really annoying. That it's just everywhere he walks. But they had his spurs, and that was a nod towards it. And from that point onwards, everyone was like, okay, there's going to be a Boba Fett show. It's definitely Boba Fett. But I think the key question was how he escaped the Sarlacc. Like, that was what everyone wanted to know. The second there was a glimpse of the fact that he might be alive and he might be back, the question was the Sarlacc. It was, how did he survive getting digested over 1,000 years? And I mean, they hid it straight away. They don't. I think that could have been like a thing that hung over the show if they waited till the last episode to sort of like, oh, this is how he got out. Like, people, I almost think it would have been obstructive for the story. But they hid it straight away. They sort of show what happens, and it's pretty gross in there, really. It's and you understand why. I think when he appeared in the Mandalorian, he looked quite, I guess, Sarlacc-y. He's quite melted.
Yeah.
It's like, oh right, oh, I see why that. I see how that happened.